Coordinator Ryan Nielsen, and to Jacksonville. He's here to meet you guys, and let's get started with some questions.
Yeah.
Let's go with Gene.
Ryan, could you just, other than wanting your unit to give 100% effort all the time, what is most important to you in terms of stressing what you want out of your unit?
Yeah, good question. So first of all, we're going to be kind of the overview of everything is we want to be attacking and aggressive in everything that we do. How we fit the run, how we attack blocks, how we play coverage. We want to be a forward-leaning, forward-running, going forward defense. And you're going to say, well, what about in the secondary and backpedaling out of that? But when we make our break, we're coming out of that break to go hit you. And so that's kind of the two things that every day that the players come in, we want to stress. There's some things, fundamental things that tackling, takeaways, ball disruption, and pursuit. And that's what we're going to be about. Tackling, takeaways, ball disruption. You have to be a good tackling defense to be a good defense. Takeaways are the number one way to limit points. Ball disruption is making the offense play not on time. We're taking away a running lane or making a ball bounce or disrupting the quarterback. And then pursuit, keeping the ball inside, proper angles, running and hitting. And so that's what we're going to be about. That's what we're going to stress. That'll be the first thing we talk about with the guys before we even start talking scheme or, stance or anything like that. We'll start at that will be our foundation, and we'll go from there.
What made this an attractive landing spot for you?
Well, a lot of things. So really, when you start looking at an opportunity, you look at the people in the building. You look at the head coach. Coach Peterson, did not know him personally before this, but you do your research and you talk to people that have worked with him, know him. I was fortunate to be on a staff that had a coach that had worked for Coach Peterson before, and he said some unbelievable things about him. And then you started calling around just a couple of guys. Just you want to check, and it's so important that you work with good people, and we're so close in this thing, and we spend so many hours a day away from our families with these men in here, and you want to be around good people. And so that was the first thing. And then Trent, you hear the same things, and so you start working your way down. Mr. Khan, the owner, what's the organization about? How is the owner? And then didn't know that they built the facility, and then you start doing the roster research, and you kind of know a little bit, but then as you start digging into this thing, you're like, you know what? This is a great place. This is a place that we want to bring our family to and be a part of. This is a place that we want to help take the next step. And so, when we kind of looked at the whole package and everything that was going on, there was no doubt this is where we wanted to be.
So you were in Disney World when you came up for the final
Yeah. Yes. So the first time the slip came in, it was denied. That's a whole nother story, but that's a good story. And so we decided that, we had a little time off and that they were going through their process and interviewing and things like that. And so we took the family down. We took them down to Disney World, and we were on the Small World. And eventually the slip got granted permission for the slip. And so we're sitting on, and I've got our kids and my wife's on the other end, and we just sat down on the boat and got a text from Coach Peterson, basically said, "Hey, Ryan is coach and would like to talk to you," that type of deal. And I looked at my wife and I'm like, how long is this going to be? Like, I got to make a call, right? And so you don't realize I can't remember the last time I was on a Small World, but it seemed about a half an hour, that ride, and eventually got off and it worked out. But yeah, so that's how it all, and then we were down there and it was really easy, came up for the interview and kind of went from there. So yeah, it was pretty interesting how it all worked out.
Who are some mentors who have really helped you get to this point? Give you credit.
Yeah, so played and worked for Ed Ogeron. He was a huge influence. Pete Jenkins, defensive line coach for a long time. Have to give credit to Pete Carroll. My senior year at USC, he was the head coach. And then there's been coaches and players over the years that, there's so many people that you'd want to mention one way or another, but have been very blessed in that, have been around Monty Kiffin and Norm Chow, Alex Gibbs, like all these guys over the years. And just, when I was a younger coach, I really didn't, understand at the time. I was so young, kind of all the knowledge that when we were at Ole Miss and these guys were coming in, with, Ogeron was the head coach, and that, man, it was just a football education. And you kind of really didn't until years later. You went back in your notes and you're like, man, you're very fortunate to be at a place at that time. Wish we could have won a few more games, but just for the football wise and football IQ is, so that's kind of where the school. But really, even with Arthur Smith last year, Sean Payton in New Orleans, you pick and you bring things that you like from everybody, and learned a lot from those guys. And Sean was huge in the first opportunity in coaching in the NFL. And so I'd be remiss not to mention him. But yeah, I mean, I could go on and on. There could be an hour conversation, but that's kind of where the foundation.
You mentioned that you had a chance to look at the roster. What are your first impressions of the players you'll be coaching?
Yeah, I think that we're talented. We've got a talented group. We've got some really good players, and that's what was exciting and attracted us about the job here. But look, talent only gets you so far, right? And so we're really excited to get to work with these guys. They seem very eager. You try to reach out and just introductions. Hello, how you doing? Introduce yourself, things like that, and the staff. And the guys seem very eager and to get going. Obviously, the season just ended, so we need a break, and we're just getting going here staff-wise. So this is a good time, but it is a really good time to start building relationships, which is really huge in what we do, right? It's about relationships and people. And so this is a great time that a couple of these guys are just coming up, hey, coach, introduce and put a face with a name, things like that. So it's been very positive.
Do you have any early thoughts at this point about how you would like to use Trayvon Walker? Obviously, he's been mostly on the edge. I think there's like maybe 10 to a dozen plays last year where he moved inside. Mm-hmm. Do you feel like he might be best suited playing more inside, or have you not really thought that through yet?
Here's kind of our philosophy with the players is we're going to put the player in a position that he can have success first over the scheme. And so we're going to evaluate everything that he does well. And then if he can rush inside, then we'll put him inside, Gene. If he's more of a better outside rusher, we'll keep him outside. Yes, we've evaluated those things, but 10 snaps is not enough to say that, yes, he can do that or he can't do that. And so we'll identify that once we get to OTAs, and so the process is never ending, and we'll put our guys in the best positions for them to have success, and then ultimately we will have success on defense and as a team.
You kind of just mentioned it, but how important is it for you to sort of not necessarily mold the players to your scheme, but maybe vice versa? And how much did you learn sort of from going from New Orleans with those type of players and going to Atlanta with a different set of players? How different is it, and what can you bring here?
That was a great process. It was a really good process. First, the collaboration with the coaches that we had brought in Atlanta. And we got in there, and it was one of my favorite times coaching, in that we threw up a template and said, hey, this is kind of what's been done before. Let's make it us. And that's the process that we're going through right now. And so all the coaches are having input on what we're doing. And so it's all of our defense. So that's a really cool process. And then we've studied the roster in that we have a pretty good idea of where we'll start with our players, and some of the techniques that we would like to teach them. And then we'll start moving them around to see what else they can do well. And so there's that process that we just did, is we're kind of doing it again. Some similarities and some differences. But the ultimate is, this is going to be Jacksonville's defense. This is going to be our defense in Jacksonville, our players, our coaches, our staff, like that type of deal. And so it's not any place that anybody's been. It's a collaborative effort of all of ours together, and that's what you'll see on Sundays.
I'm curious too, because everyone seems to think this defense is man-oriented. Everyone talks about the man-to-man, press-man scheme that you deploy. Could you just walk us through that? Is that the case, or what's the nuance there?
Well, we like to, as one of our coaches would like to say, nothing cheap and nothing deep. And so when you're press, you take away the quick game, and we like to play shell, which everybody, when you look at us, we take away the deep throws. It may look man or man-ish at times, but sometimes there's some press bail and some nuances in the coverage of that. It actually is zone with tighter coverage outside. And so it's actually good that you see it like that, because If we're viewed like that, then we drop into zone. It could be advantageous for us on defense. So yeah, we're going to be mixing and matching. We play a lot of different coverages and mix and matches our coverages. And again, that's what we did then, and it may be different now. And so that's what the process that we're going through and with the players. But we have everything in there. It's just what are we going to start with? We know where we're starting. What's the ending? What's it going to look like when we end? Because the new coaches and the new players together, and we want to do what's best for everybody.
What does this team still need that you see when you look at what you guys are bringing and what you want to do?
Yeah, really, like we talked about in the very beginning. We want to be an attacking, aggressive style of defense that runs to the ball, that goes and hunts the ball, and just put the pressure on the offense. That's just what that we feel that we can bring. That's just the style that we want to play. And so we feel that, when we talk to Coach Peterson and, complements what we're doing on offense, and we want to be very complimentary to the other side of the ball and get them the ball as much as possible. And Trevor, and because they've got a lot of talent over there and they're very good. And so, look, we just want to do our job and get the ball back to them as many times as possible. And when we do that, we'll win a lot of games. So really, that's kind of the, just keep giving the ball back to the offense in good field positions, and it'll be good in the end.
How far along are you with putting together your defensive staff?
Not this week.
Okay.
Coach is going to put that on time. They're getting close.
Yeah, it's we have the pieces in place. It'll be announced here soon, and so excited. We'll say this: excited about the guys. Worked with some of them, haven't worked with other. Coached a few, and so it's a great group of guys that been very close to. Know that first and foremost, good men. Secondly, really good teachers of the game. And so when you put those two things together, they're eager and excited. We see a lot of similarities.
When you were talking to the guys and introducing yourself, did you get a sense from them that they are eager to get back, just to kind of really get that taste out of their mouth after the way things kind of ended and kind of just turn the page on that?
Yeah, I think so. Like, they need a break, and so that's kind of the process now. But when you talk to them, they seem very eager, asking good questions, and what are we going to be about and things like that. And you're kind of gearing the conversation more towards the relationship part and really breaking the ice and getting to know them than the football X's and O's stuff, which we'll have plenty of time to get to, once OTAs and the guys come back around and things like that. And so don't want to start with that, and we have plenty of time for that later. It's more, getting into the families and things like that, where they're from, and, talking to them, really getting to know each other.
I know you were mostly focusing on their offense, but what did you kind of learn just leading up to when you guys faced them last year? You really about this team, some of the guys that they have? Yeah,
we'll start with the quarterback, right? I mean, the guy's a really good football player. Big, athletic, he can make all the throws, he runs well, physical offensive line, skill in the receiver position, tight end runs well. Heck of a back now, a couple of backs. So when you put it all together, it's like, as we were looking, that's one of the pieces and why we wanted to come down here and be a part of this is they've got some talent over there and some really good players. And so, like we were talking about earlier, let's just give them the ball back as many times as we can.
You mentioned teaching when putting together your staff. That's one of the things a lot of your former players have mentioned when talking about you, how good of a teacher you are. How important is that for being a coach in the NFL these days?
It's very important, right? I mean, it's, first of all, there's a couple, it's fundamentals, right, and technique, and then scheme, and then putting it together. And so we wanted men that are very talented in both aspects and bringing it together. And also part of that is the relationship part. Like, the players got to trust in what we're saying and teaching and coaching and like that. And so a lot of these guys have background of that. And so I think when our players come in, they'll be like, look, this guy's done it, and this is the system that how we go about in teaching things. I think they're really going to like that. With all the coaches in the room. And so I personally am very excited about the group of men that we're working with and getting them with our players and starting this. And the best time is on the grass, right, with the players. And so you only can be so excited. I'd go out there right now if I could. Yeah, really excited about that process and can't wait for that to get going.
Ryan, in terms of getting off the field on third down, what are some core principles that you believe in?
Yeah, rushing coverage. Right, I mean, really, rushing coverage. We have to be multiple. First thing we got to do is affect the quarterback in that we can't allow the ball to come out of his hand quickly, because then the rush doesn't get there. So if the coverage has holes in it, or we're giving an easy throw, then it doesn't matter who we got coming off the edge, and we've got a couple of good edge guys here. So we've got to get the quarterback to hold it. The disguise is big. We have multiple packages on third down, so we change week to week, or maybe we don't, and so we keep them guessing. Really big early in the game is we try to go out there and they're kind of trying to identify what we're doing on third down, and then go from there. Not, hey, we're going to be in this look and every single time, hey, we can make this throw. So we've got to be multiple and keep changing. They're just too good on offense. The quarterbacks are too good, offensive coordinators. There's so many guys over there that can identify, and so that's why we've got to keep it multiple and keep changing up the looks.
Okay, well, we do a couple more.
You mentioned edge. Just how much do you know about Josh Allen, and how important is he going to be to this defense?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of production, right? Very important. And so when you got a guy like that, and you want him back and think that's going to work out, would be really excited if that works out. Really excited to work with him. Heard nothing but great things. Talked to Josh, and he's been fantastic. And so that'll get worked out, get him back, and get him going, and hopefully get him to improve. That's the ultimate goal, right? Just take one. If we can just get that much better next year, really, what does that look like? That's pretty exciting, right? And so that's kind of what we want to work towards.
All right, thanks, Coach.
Appreciate everybody.
Thanks, Ryan.